All right, guys, the watch list for Tuesday. I'm going to go with BITA. It's got to go again on watch again. Remember, I had the line drawn here that was kind of resistance at the breakout area all the way back about almost a year ago, and it was down this many days in a row. Today, a little bottoming tail. I did mention it near the end of the day. I never really caught any clean entry except near the end of the day. It looked like this. I said over 47, this might give a trade. I didn't do anything with it, but it almost popped up, got to the red to green spot. So you got to like this for a possible continuation of the bounce. And you still have another day that it did not break its early high. So you can go back, I don't know how many days. These are 15-minute candles. That was today, the day before. This one, it did kind of break its early high a few days in. Actually, I think we got a trade in it that day. Then the day before, the day before. So this really, and now it's starting to kind of get that bottoming look. So I have this on long watch for a trade only, but it looks good. I mean, like I said, this one could get a decent sized bounce. GENE is in my notes. I don't like these kind of topping tails here. I really need to get all these lines off my chart. These are old lines. 15-minute candles, but you did have a nice spike a few sessions ago. Another one on Friday. And then today it started to get some volume, but never broke its early high. And you could argue the same thing. You had a morning high on Thursday, a morning high on Friday, and then it never broke its morning high on Monday. So even though the daily you've got these kind of topping tails, this one is starting to maybe find its footing. And I think what I'd like to see is an afternoon high of day break, kind of a narrow range for a while. Keep GENE on a chart just for that possibility. You might get a nice trade. Remember, I'm a day trader, so I'm just looking for things that might give me a nice trade tomorrow. Okay, nothing pretty for longs here, SINA, but I do want to put it on bounce watch. It's down, long consolidation here now, 4 or 5 days down in a row. And if I pan, I think I went to the weekly to get this line, and now it's not going to work. All right, there we go. This is kind of silly to look for support when you have to go back to 2010. But, whenever you see something just falling with no support anywhere inside, you've got to go really far back on the chart. And it is hitting like the 2010 lows. Does that give me a lot of excitement for a bounce? No, but again, when you zoom in, you can see that this has been 4 or 5 days down in a row. So I really want to, and you're at that 2010 area, so who knows? But I think it's worthwhile to have it on potential bounce watch for tomorrow. Another possible bounce play, LL, Lumber Liquidators. If you trade at all, you're familiar with this thing. Didn't break its early high on Friday. This is something I always look at when I have a stock that's had recent craziness or passion or volume, whatever you want to call it. It never broke its early high on Friday, didn't break its early high today, but did have a nice kind of midday rally. And so I think this one, again, if we can trade in a narrow range for an hour or two and then break its highs, just the fact of having LL on a chart and you see it where it's setting up, you might get a nice trade in it, okay? INO, I swear these charts, in the market, it's after hours right now. You'd think the charts would populate really quickly, but sometimes eSignal does this. It makes me crazy. But anyway, a big volume spike in INO today. Now, yes, it's extended, but we might might open at 820 and sell off a little bit and then give me a red to green. So whenever you have an anomaly like this for a particular stock, and a big move, you don't want to chase it, but if you have it on watch, it might give you a red to green. I'll give you an example, W from today. Charts are so slow right now, it's ridiculous. I have been told if you close your charts and then open it up again in a minute or two, sometimes you'll get a different server and it'll work, but man, that's aggravating. W, it's still not done. There we go. W, man, if it did this during the trading day, I wouldn't be able to trade. W was one that was extended. I said it in last night's video. I'll take today's candle out of it. I said, hey, this is extended, but we might get a red to green, so it's worth having on watch because there's a lot of shorts in it, okay? So you go to 5-minute candles. And it looked about like this when I called it. I was thinking, hey, we might get a red to green. I called it at 32.24. when it looked like this. The high of day was 32.55. So I was thinking if we get up to about here, we might push through the high of the day and go. So I called it a 32.24 with a 31.99 stop, and there you go. And look at this. It ends up going all the way to over 34 bucks. So even though this was extended, and now you look at it and you've got a couple topping tails, and this one does need to come in, and then later this week or maybe early next week we'll get some nice longs in it again. But even though you have this, what looks like longs got burned, having that on watch, even though it was extended, we got a really nice trade in this one today. So that's when I show you something like an INO, keep in mind that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's kind of what I'm looking for. JMEI. This is just sideways. There's nothing that compelling. But in after hours, I'm showing 1405 prints, and it looks like pretty good volume. Can't see it on this chart, but if I bring down my 60-minute chart that I do have extended hours on, it looks like decent volume in after hours up near the top of this range. So I want to have that one on as a possible gap play tomorrow. I don't even know what the news is, but before the open tomorrow, I'll certainly check the news, the float, and all that, and see if it's if it meets our requirements for a possible gap play. So that's why I have JMEI on a chart, just because of the after hours activity. KNDI didn't close at its highs. You had the 200-day here, and you had a couple recent highs here, and here. But certainly standout volume, and it held up fairly well. It literally closed pretty much right at the 200-day. So again, maybe a possible red to green tomorrow. It's worth having on a chart for that. This one is up over today's high, is certainly getting close to breakout territory for this one. Today's high was 1485. So sometimes they just don't get going, and then the very next day you can get a nice move. So I certainly want to have KNDI on a chart. AXN, cheapy, had a huge move back here, sold off, bounced, looked like it was rolling over, and then buyer stepped right back up. So this one's actually kind of compelling. I like it over this 3-day high, up over $1.95. This one, might make another move up through 2, and maybe over the next couple of days challenge this 260 high. So AXN I do want to have on watch. MELA. This one was really aggravating and kind of a template for how the market was today. I was watching this one, and before I went to lunch, I did say, I put out a list of a few stocks that were interesting to me, and this was one of them. I said, if this one gets back through the high of the day, over 329 or 330, this one could go. All right, and so look what happens. It just does nothing. I went to lunch, came back, and then late in the afternoon, all of a sudden, just boom. And by the time I see it, it was already. I felt like I was chasing. So I was right to watch it. It made a nice move, and I never got a trade in it. But that's how aggravating the market can be sometimes, right? But anyway, having said that, I'm going to watch this again tomorrow. With that afternoon rally, got to figure a lot of shorts in this thing. Over 12 million shares on the gap up day. Went down for a few days. As you know, I had this on Bounce Watch today. I'm embarrassed to say I didn't get a trade in it. But, sometimes that happens. You can't catch them all. And that is MELA. STX. This is still holding this trend line. It gapped down the other day below it, but then is really holding up. If I switch to 60-minute candles, it's fairly clear. Kind of a little mini breakout point, if you will, right over this 55. So you gapped down this day, and you went up into 55, sold off again. Maybe call this a double bottom. Gapped up today, sold off, but then ends up going up near the high of the day. So I like STX over 55 tomorrow. And then finally, VVUS got a nice spike today. I told everybody this could be a good, possibly a good swing, because it might gap, just because you've got this nice breakout over $3 where it's had trouble with, back here, and now you've got big volume. You could tell this was going to be a big volume day on an intraday basis when this volume came in right here. So who knows if it gaps or not, but I certainly want to watch this for maybe, like I said, a red to green move or something like that. It can pay just to have the right recent movers on charts, and then a group of people working together in chat to spot the setups. You can get paid. So it's important to populate your charts with stocks that have had recent high relative volume for those stocks, and then hopefully we can catch some nice trades. I had an okay day today. I put on Twitter earlier today that how did I write it? I wrote something like, what I'm not proud of and then the statement was, I'm not trading that great the last couple weeks. But what I am proud of is I have one red day in the last 6 weeks, I think. I mean, I haven't exactly timed it out, but I think it's been about 6 weeks I've had one red day. So even though I'm not trading great, just keep plugging away and honoring your rules and making sure that you're defensive first. And I always tell people in chat that you should have in the background of your brain when you're trading, like you're at a basketball game and you hear the crowd chanting defense, should have that in your brain the whole time you're trading. Because the only reason trading is so hard is because some people relent, even if it's just for one moment, and screw up. And I'm going to say this at least once a week in one of my videos. It takes a split second to screw up possibly your trading career, but definitely a good day or a good week, and that can compound when you have a really bad day. All of a sudden, it can compound and then become a bad week, and then you start getting desperate or even getting a snowballing and getting dangerous. And so, when you're sitting at your screens, you have to resolve to have 100% discipline the whole time, the entire time you're at your screen. Okay, if some of you know, like 2.5 weeks ago, I had my one losing day in the last 6 weeks, but it all started with one mistake where I slightly chased Mobileye, and that compounded into another bad Mobileye trade. Oh, and I had my order form filled out wrong. It was filled out way too big, bigger than 3 times what I thought it was filled out for, and that was on the chase. And so when it reversed, it just hammered me, and that led me to 2 other bad Mobileye trades. But you could easily go back and say all of those losses were from that one moment that I relented and broke my rules and chased. Okay, I really thought it was on earnings day, and I really thought it was going to break the high of the day. So I bought it as it was running, and it had already run normally way farther than I would have ever bought a stock. So that split-second decision cost me, 2 more losing trades. I mean, you could argue that it snowballed and cost me, and it took me a while just to get the money back from that day. It took me several days to get the money back from that day. So if I can leave you with any thought, it is to be relentless in following your rules. I'm not telling you that you don't ever lose on a trade. That's not possible. I'm saying don't ever relent and break any one of your rules. And if you've been trading for any length of time, I know you've got sticky notes all over your monitors, or you've got notes cussing yourself out. You've got reminders in your phone. You've got several ways to remind yourself not to screw up. But as you know, as a trader, that doesn't mean you won't break your rules again. So I'm going to say this at least once a week. Don't relent ever when you're at your screens. 100% discipline the entire time, meaning never ever break your rules. Never break any of them. Chasing, ignoring stops, doubling down. You just can't do it, because the split second you make that decision, you might be starting a snowball. All right, you have to understand that. So just be relentless in following those rules, and you should be okay. All right, I apologize for my babbling, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.